Shul's floor.
Okay.
So ever since then, I made sure to buy a cup with a solid lid on it. If this spills, a little bit will come out, but not much.
Okay, Yitches, right?
Yes.
Yitches on the days. We're going to start with my time the Rabbanan. We had a machlokes between the Rabbanan and Reb Shimon. Reb Shimon said that Yitzika, the pouring of the oil into a mincha, needs to be done by a kohen. And the Rabbanan said, no, Yitzika does not need, the pouring does not need to be done.
What is
by a
Yitzika?
kohen. The pouring of the oil into the flour. You pour it twice. First you pour it on the bottom, then you put the flour, and then you pour the oil on top. And our Mishnah said on Yudches Amud Aleph, Lo Yatzak, if you did not pour, which the Gemara explains means you did not pour it by a kohen, rather a zor, a non-kohen poured it, so you're still yaitzer.
Like maybe that's like shechting. Is that the same thing?
Exactly.
Really?
Amen. When you see the way they learn it, you'll even be clear. Okay, 3 lines from the bottom. My time of the Rabbanan. See it on Yitches? What's the reason for the Rabbanan that say that you don't need a kohen? Amakra, it says in the pasuk. Where's the pasuk? 2nd chapter of Vayikra. It says in the pasuk, "V'yatzkala Hashem and v'nasnel l'vayna v'viel b'nei Aaron HaKohen v'kamatz." It's the pasuk starts off that if a person will want to bring a carbon mincha, he'll bring flour, he'll pour on it oil, he'll put on it frankincense, and he'll bring it to Aaron the Kohen, and he will do kmitza from there. When does the kmitza? Who does the kmitza? Aaron. But when do we need Aaron? After he brings it to him, after he pours on the oil and all of that. Mikmitza ve'elach mitzvahs kuna. It's only from the kmitza and on. Limit al yitziku belila sheksher bizar. If you look at the pasuk, it's clear.
But wait, 1 second. So he's saying basically, from the fact that it says you take Hashem and Aaron, it's mashma that it could be a zar.
That until vehiviel b'nei Aaron HaKohen, it's a zar. Only when it comes to Aaron, which is from the kmitza and on. For Reb Shimon, what does Reb Shimon do?
That makes sense to you? That proves that it's not. How does that say that it's not a kohen?
Because it didn't start it off with saying.
Oh, so you're saying the fact that it says okay.
If it would have said.
It says b'nei Aaron.
B'nei Aaron. It could have said v'hiviel b'nei Aaron HaKohen. V'yatzakal Hashem and whatever. And it didn't do that. It said v'yatzakal Hashem and then v'hiviel b'nei Aaron.
Right. Right. So it's mashma from the latter part that it could be anybody in the first part, but the fact that it mentions it. Okay, I got you.
Reb Shimon, b'nei Aaron HaKoyanim. Says b'nei Aaron HaKohen in between the Yitzika and the Kmitza, right? In between the pouring and the Kmitza, it says those words. And Reb Shimon holds Mikra Nidrish Lefanav V'Lachrav. That the psukim are read backwards and forwards. That means that what I can do is like this. I can say that the Heviyah B'nei Aaron HaKoyanim is going back on the one that's going to pour it. It's not the way we would write it in English, but how do we do it? V'heviyah. People bring it. I don't know how to change the
first part. If you would bring the first part, okay. I have no idea.
How do you do that? Unless you can change it to the past participle where you say, and it has been brought, and this already has been brought. that would keep it, but it doesn't sound like that. It says v'hivia and he will bring. Right? V'hivia is future tense. Okay. You get what Reb Shimon's saying?
So I know the Rabbanan I get.
The Rabbanan is easy.
Yeah.
Reb Shimon says that in between the pouring of the oil, we're on the top of 19a. In between the pouring of the oil, right, and the kmitza, it says it will be, and he will bring it to Aaron, the sons of Aaron the Kohanim.
Okay.
Now, Reb Shimon says that the sons of Aaron the Kohanim is going on afterwards, of course, that they will do the kmitza, but it's also going on, they will do the pouring, because he says mikra nidrash lefanav v'lachrav. I can learn a pasuk forwards and backwards.
So he would say the same thing from the previous pasuk, so wouldn't he?
This he's using this pasuk, the same pasuk.
Oh.
So the same pasuk that the Rabbanan say that you see where the Kohanim start. The Kohanim start from the kmitza. The pouring of it does not need to be done by Kohanim. Now Reb Shimon says no, that I can take that action and that section of the sentence and use it for what was done before and after. The Kohanim need to do the pouring and they need to do the kmitza. Savar Reb Shimon mikra nidus lefanav v'lachrav. Does Reb Shimon hold this? That you can do that to a pasuk? V'hatanya was taught in a brisa. V'lokach hakayin midam achatas be'etzboi v'nasan al karnes hamizbeach. The Kohen will take the blood with his finger and he'll place it on the corners of the mizbeach. Be'etzboi v'lokach. With his finger, and he will take. Malamed shaloi take kabbalah Eily biyamin. Whenever it says the word etzba, it means yamin. We had that before. Be'etzba v'nasan. Malamed shaloi take nasin Eily biyamin. If you notice, the word be'etzba, see what happens here is there's two verbs. The Kohen will take, and the Kohen will place. However, the description of what he will take with is said after the first verb. The Kohen will take with his finger. And then it says, and he will place on the corners of the Mizbeach. So, the first opinion here says, with his finger, goes on the first action, he will take with his finger. And also goes on the second action, he will place with his finger. Be'etzboi v'nasan. However, Amar Reb Shimon says, Yad b'Kabbalah. Does it say that he will take with his finger? It doesn't say he will take with his finger. It says be'etzboi v'nasan. He with his finger and he will place. Yad b'Kabbalah kibu b'smal kasher. Since it doesn't say he will take with his finger, I would have read the pasuk that it does say that, but Reb Shimon doesn't. It says that with his finger he will place. That means that receiving the blood, which is the taking of the blood, can be done with his left hand. Because whenever it says in the Torah finger, it means the right hand. Amar Abaya explains the machlekes between Reb Shimon and the Tanna Kama. That the machlekes is, can a verse be read forwards and backwards? But Reb Shimon Savar, la'achrav nidrush l'fanav ein nidrush. That's not part of the Gemara, that's a commentary that got added in. And then Reb Shimon holds, he spells it out for us, Reb Shimon holds that the pasuk is only read forwards. It's not read backwards. So what would be the reason for Reb Shimon why the pouring of the oil needs to be done by Kohanim? If you can only read the pasuk forwards, then that means that the Kohanim will do the kmitza. But beforehand, there's no Kohanim. That's the owner.
We established from this little thing over here that there's no
Mikra nidrush la'achrav. We don't say that.
What's the halacha to do that?
To read it backwards.
Yeah. Everything is Torah is exact.
Right.
That's what by Purim.
It's grandfathered in.
What's the halacha to say I can read something backward?
I need more examples to be able to I need to see how the Gemara does this more.
Okay.
And we have to, line them up and see what exactly is the Gemara doing.
Fine. Because it just almost sounds like it's a game. I can't find what I want, so if I can't get a good answer, so I'll read it backward. I get the answer. But obviously, if you read it backward, you need a different result.
The only thing what I can think of is sometimes you read a sentence and there's pronouns there,
Okay.
and you don't know who the pronoun is until you read further,
Okay.
and then you find out, oh, it's talking about so and so, because from the context you see that. So that's my understanding of this, is that you see who the pasuk is talking about, who's doing this. It says that the Aaron is going to do that. Before it just used pronouns. We don't know who it's referring to. So we see it's Aaron. It means Aaron was referring to further. Aaron is referring to there. That's whatever.
Okay.
Okay. The Malbim. He had to deal a lot with the reform, the Enlightenment and all of that. He had a lot.
He lived in what period about the Malbim?
In the mid 1800s, I think.
That's when reform started?
Well, a little earlier it started.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
Some of the Greeks.
The
No, I thought it was Mendelssohn, right? I thought it was Mendelssohn,
yeah.
right?
Mendelssohn was early.
Oh, he was in the 19th century.
Yeah. Early. He was early.
Yeah, makes sense.
One second. There's letters from. Okay, whatever the case is, so he wrote. A lot of people had claims about how the Gemara learns psukim and this and that. So he went through it and he worked out by the syntax of the way the verses are written, the nouns before the verbs and the this and the that and all of the way the nuances
Yeah.
of the verses, exactly how to darshan, how the sages are darshaning a pasuk. So he could spot a drasha actually before the spot a drasha coming. We're not allowed to. We don't make our own drashas. We don't say, oh, the pasuk said it like this, so that's going to teach me that. We have to wait to have a tradition for it. But he claimed to have figured out the pattern. Reb Shimon, we need a new solution. Why does Reb Shimon hold that you need kayanim to pour? So it says vehivia. There's a vav and vav meisav in rishon. The vav is adding, and they will bring it to Aaron the kayan. It's adding. That means the first one not only was before brought to Aaron, and this will also be brought. This will also be done by Aaron. B'savar Reb Shimon vav meisav in rishon. Does Reb Shimon really hold that if you have a vav, that's a connector vav, that's saying and this also, that means that you're adding on to what it said first? Elamiyata diksiv. According to this, it says in the pasuk, "V'shachares ben abakavik riva b'nei anakayim v'sadam v'zarku esadam," that they'll slaughter. This is a question coming right from your. They'll slaughter the young cattle, and they'll bring it to Aaron the Kayanim, and they'll sprinkle the blood. The Kabbalah Velech mitzvah, the sprinkling of the blood, or from receiving of the blood, is when the Kayanim begin. Melamed al shchita shekshir bizarre. This teaches us that a non-Kayan is allowed to do the shchita, and if Eily Reb Shimon vav meisav al inyan rishon, if we say that the vav adds the vav of v'hikrivu b'nei Aaron HaKayanim is adding on to the first one, so hachinami bizarre tehei psula. By the shchita also it should be puzzle. It's not going to get away with this one. The Gemara says, "Shani hasam damakra v'samach v'shachat," because it says before the v'shachat, it says first. It says he will lean his hands. Now, who has to lean his hands? Mas micha bezarim. Just like the leaning on the animal is done by the non-kayan, it's done by the owner actually, which is many cases is a non-kayan, but it doesn't need to be a kayan. It needs to be the owner. Af shchita bezarim. Also, the slaughtering is done by
Can I
zarim.
ask you a question? In this week's parsha, like in the Chitas, it talks about when you bring the bikurim, and it's also very ambiguous, right? Because it sounds like, you know what I'm talking about, where it says like you put your hand underneath it.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying it's like similar to this, and like it's really the kohen and the person.
Right.
It's just interesting. Whatever. I don't know.
The Gemara says, 1 second, you're going to get yourself into trouble here. Why does the shechita not need to be with a kayan? Because it says near it, v'samach. V'samach means you lean on it. Who does the leaning on it? The owner. With non-kayan. so to the shchita is a non-kayan. In other words, normally the vav would have added, but because over here it says v'samach v'shachat, that he will lean on it, he will slaughter. It sounds like the one that's before that did the leaning does the shchita. If the smicha is done with the owners, av shchita b'bailim. Maybe the owner needs to do the shchita.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it says ahulei matazamrit. You can't say that. Kal v'chaymer. I'll give you a kal v'chaymer. Ma zrika deika kapara le'bay bailim. By the zrika, which that's the main kapara, the sprinkling of the blood. You don't need the owners to do the zrika. Shchita delabika kapara le'kolshkin. The shchita, which is who does the zrika? The kayan does it. It's not the owner. So if the zrika doesn't need to be done by a kayan. I'm sorry. The zrika needs to be done by a kayan. It does not need to be done by the owner. So the shchita for sure doesn't need to be done. Wait,
zrika is the main thing, right?
Zrika is the main thing, and it
kal
does
v'chaymer?
not need to be done by the owner.
Okay, so then, right? So if the
And
main
he
thing doesn't
receives
need to be done-
atonement. So for
then
sure, shchita.
Shchita doesn't need to be.
If you'll say ain't done an efsher mishi efsher, you can't learn something that's potentially possible from something that's not impossible, which means that yes, the zrika we should have used the owner, but the owner's not a kayan, so we had to get a kayan. However, here by the shchita, we should use the owner. We're saying no. If the zrika doesn't need to be the owner, and nevertheless he can attain atonement, so the shchita for sure doesn't need to be. So yeah, well the shchita you couldn't use the owner because the owner's not a kayan, so you had to use someone else. But by the shchita, at least you should use the.
No, by the zrika.
By the shchita. By the
okay.
by the zrika,
Yeah.
Right.
we're asking. Maybe the shchita should be done by the owner.
Right, because if the zrika is in kal v'chaymer.
No.
No,
Why should the
zrika is the
shchita?
most-
No,
zrika is
one
the
second. We're saying maybe the shchita should be done by the owner because the owner leans on it, v'samach. And we said, why does the shchita not need to be done by a kayan? Because it says he will lean on it, he will slaughter it. Just like the leaning on it is not a kayan, also the slaughtering is not a kayan. Gemara says, well, let's take that a step further. Who leans on it? The owner. Let's say now that just like the owner has to lean on it, the owner needs to slaughter it. We never said the owner. You just said that anyone that's not a kayan can slaughter it, and the kayan can slaughter it. But it doesn't need to be the owner. It doesn't need to be a kayan. So we said, no, we're not going to say that the owner needs to slaughter the animal. Why? Because let's take a look at the zrika. That's the main part of the sacrifice, and it does not need to be the owner. So the peripheral things for sure don't need to be the owner. The shchita for sure doesn't need to be the owner. Gemara says, but one second, the zrika, which is not the owner, was impossible to be the owner because the owner is not a kayan. However, the shchita, it's possible to be the owner. So you can't learn just like the zrika is not the owner, so too the shchita is not the owner, because the zrika was impossible to be the owner and the shchita is possible to be the owner. So we should do that. The Gemara says, no, you don't say that. Because Gali Rachmana B'Yom Kippurim, the Eibishter revealed, the Torah revealed on Yom Kippur, B'Shachar Es Parachatas Asher Loi, that he will slaughter the bull of sin offering that is his, which means it was his personal sacrifice. M'klal the shchita ba'alma loy be'inan bailim. The kayan gadol does the shchita here. That means by a regular karban, the rest of the year, the owner does not do the shchita. So we have it's negated that the owner should do the shchita from what we learned by Yom Kippur, that over there the Kohen Gadol does the shechita on his own sacrifice.
But we still say that a owner can do it.
Owner can, but he doesn't have to.
Right.
And we also know that a shechita is ksheira bizarre because of the samach, because the way he leans on it. And can we still learn that the vav is ma'asav? Yes. So we have an explanation for Reb Shimon. Why does Reb Shimon say that the yitzika, the pouring of the oil, needs to be done by a kayan? Because of the vav. The vav adds to what we said before. Okay, Amarav. Kol makom shenemar Torah v'chulka ein
So
ela.
we are concluding now that a crane is not required for the shkita?
Yeah, that's clear. The kain is not required for the shkita. There's the famous Gemara where
Can a cotton? Is a cotton also?
I don't know that. There's the Hakol
Hakol ksherim l'shchita.
first Mishnah there.
Right.
Yeah, but does it say cotton as
No,
well?
I'm not asking
It
you.
says chutz me something. Whenever it says Hakol, there's always a chutz coming later. except for the Gemara said that Shmuel was brought back after when he was 2 or 3 years old. He was brought back by Chana to stay in the temple, in the tabernacle, and he noticed that everyone's running around looking for a kohen. He says, "What are you doing? You don't need a kohen." It says v'shachat. It says v'zarak kohen mikamitz ve'elach. The shechita doesn't need to be a kohen. He said, "Really? We didn't know this." They ran to Eily a kohen, and they said, "This young boy is telling us things." He said, "Yeah, he's right, but he paskin in front of his teacher, which is Eily." He says,
But he didn't pass in front of them, and then they came.
"Yeah,
to
but
him.
in the vicinity of where the teacher is, you're not allowed to paskin."
Oh, so it's not
because
just
of that, he's chayiv misa. So that's when Chana cried, and she said, "Naras es balalti. This is the one I prayed for." And okay, all because of this shchita by a.
Oh, because of this.
Amarav.
This sugya here. That's what it's based on.
Yeah, well, it's
That's
a Gemara
story.
brachas.
I'm saying that's very interesting.
Amarav. Kol makom shenemar Torah v'chukei eina lakir. Whenever the Torah says the words Zais Torahs something or Zais Chukas, these are the laws, these are the statutes. That means that if you mess up something, it's invalid. It's not just like it's a mitzvah to do. It's ma'akiv. It invalidates. Kasal kedaitach tarti be'inan. We understand that what it means is that you need to say both words, Torah and Chukah. Kidiksiv, Zais Chukas HaTorah. Over there you have both words. So it means that anything that's not done is going to be invalid. The Gemara says, Siman Natatz Yakmal. We're going to see several cases here. That's the mnemonic, if you want to remember this Gemara. The first one. Bahari Nazir. You see the nun? That would be the Nazir. The Leksiva Be'ela Torah. It only says the word Torah. It does not say the word Chukah, statute. V'amar Rav, and Rav stated, Tenufa Benazir Marakeves, that if you don't waive the sacrifice of the Nazir, then it's Ma'akiv, it invalidates it. It doesn't say the word Chukah though.
1 second. So we're saying we're trying to prove here by the Nazir. So it says V'hari Nazir the loik sibei ela Torah.
Right.
It only says Torah.
It only says Torah. It does not say Chukah.
It doesn't say Chukah, and therefore.
And therefore it should not be Ma'akiv, because we're thinking now that you need both words,
Okay.
Torah and Chukah.
Okay.
That's what we're questioning. The Gemara says, Shani Hassam, Kivan the Ksiv Kenyasa, Command the Ksiva Bu Chukah Dami. It says, so you shall do. It adds that in. So that teaches me that it's as if it said the word Chukah.
Right.
We get away with it without the word Chukah here. Now the Gemara says, Hari Toida. What about the Toida sacrifice? The Lake Siva Be'ela Torah. It doesn't say Chukah there either. It only says the word Torah. What's the pasuk? Zeis Torah Zevach Hashlamim Asher Yaakov Lashem Imal Toida Yaakov. Okay, it says the word Torah. Utanan Arba Minim. You have to add in Shebetoida Ma'akvin. The 4 types of bread, of loaves, that the person that's bringing the Toida has to bring. If he doesn't bring them all, it's Ma'akiv. Ma'akvin zeh, they invalidate each other if you don't have the full amount, even though it doesn't say the word chukah. It says shani toida diskash lenazir. Well, we don't need the word chukah here because it's compared to the nazir. Diksiv al zevach toida shlamav, on the sacrifice of his peace offering. V'amar mar shlamav l'Rabbi Shalmi nazir. And it was taught that when it says shlamav, it's coming to include the peace offerings of the Nazir. So we know there's this connection between the Toida and the Nazir, that the connection teaches us that the amount of bread that a Nazir has is the same like the one bringing the carbon Toida. So because they're compared. So once they're compared, then they're also compared that it's Ma'akiv as well, even though it doesn't say Chukah. Why by a Nazir it doesn't say Chukah either? Well, we just said because it says Kenyasa. Next question. Havarei Metzayra. In the mnemonic, we're now on a tzaddik, not on a mem. The nun was Nazir, Toida, now Metzayra. The Lake Siv Be'ela Torah. It only says the word Torah. It does not say the word Chukah. Utinan, arba minim sheb mitzayir makvin zeh. The four things that a mitzayir needs, which are the cedar wood, the grass, the thread, and the birds that are needed in the kapara. So they all ma'akiv each other. If they're invalid, they make it not invalid. They make it invalid if he doesn't have all of them.
What if one of them is puzzle?
Ineffective.
Or one of them is...
I don't know how. I'm not sure the laws of the cedar wood and all of those. And okay, the Gemara says Shani Hasam Kivan the Ksiv Zais Tia Teira Samitzayra Command the Ksiv Bechuka. The Tia, so it shall be, is similar to like the Kenyasa, which teaches me that it's ma'akiv. It's ineffective or invalid if you don't have all of the details. Okay, now we're up to the next word already. Vari Yom Kippur, like Siv Be'el Chuka. Yom Kippur doesn't say Torah, it only says the opposite. It only says Chuka. Utanan, Siri Yom Kippur, Makvin said the two goats. If you don't have one, it's invalid. Some cases you have to bring a whole another two. So the Gemara says, okay, so we got it wrong. Ela oy Torah oy Chuka. Doesn't need both. Either this word Torah or the word Chuka tells me that whatever it says in that section is vital for the effectiveness of the sacrifice. For a shar kabbanis tiksiv Torah v'lei ma'akvi. Now we're in a problem. Once you said that you only need one of the words, you have other sacrifices. There's many things in the sacrifice that's not ma'akiv, and nevertheless it says the word Torah. So the Gemara explains Torah by Chuka, Chuka like by Torah. That if it says the word Torah, then you still need the word Chuka. But if it says the word Chuka, then you don't need the word Torah. So Chuka is enough. The Gemara says Torah v'Chuka ka'amar.
Right.
It says Torah and Chuka. You don't need the word Torah at all. Right? If it has Torah, then you need the word Chuka, and it says Chuka, you don't need Torah. So you don't need the word Torah.
Are they mutually inclusive?
What's the situation where you're going to have Torah, and if you have Torah, you need Chukah. So Torah alone is useless. If you have Chukah, you don't need Torah, so then Torah is useless.
Yeah.
Okay. So Hachi Kamar, this is what it means. Afagab the Ksiv Torah, even though it says Torah, Iksiv Chuka in. V'loi loi. Actually, that's correct. You don't need the word Torah. What it's saying is that the word Torah is not enough. And if you have Chukah, that's even if it says Torah, you still need the word Chukah. So it's rather Kol Makom Shenemar Torah, you still need the word Chukas for it not to be ma'akiv. That's the statement of Rabbi. The Gemara says, Vari Mincha, Tiksiv B'Chuka. It says the word Chuka, that should be good enough, right? V'amarav, Kol Makom Shehichzer HaKasav B'Teiras Mincha, Ein Al La'akiv. If the Torah repeats anything by the Mincha, then it's ma'akiv. Why do I need it to repeat it? It says the word Chuka there. Automatically it's ma'akiv. It's ineffective if it doesn't have all the details. Hichzer in Loi, Hichzer Loi. It sounds like if it repeats it, then it's ma'akiv. If it doesn't repeat it, it's not ma'akiv. The Gemara says, Shani Hasam. There is different. Where does it say the word Chuka? The Chiksiva Chuka? Achila Ksiva. It's not about the bringing of the mincha, it's about eating the mincha, it says Chuka. 1 second. By the Lechem Apanim, it also says about eating the Lechem Apanim, it says the word Chuka. And I know by the Lechem Apanim that it's Ma'akiv. The Tanan, it was taught in a Mishnah, Shnei Sidarim, Ma'akvin Zeh. Shnei Bazichen Ma'akvin Zeh. HaSidarim V'Abazichen Ma'akvin Zeh. Everything by the Lechem Apanim is Ma'akiv. And it says the word Chuka, but it says the word Chuka by Achila. And that seems to be enough. So why by the Mincha doesn't need to repeat it in order for it to be Ma'akiv? Alakol Hechadik Siva Achila. Akulam El Siksiva. Rather, if it says it on the Achila, on the eating, it means it on the whole paragraph, on the whole section. So why by the Mincha doesn't need to repeat it? Shani Hasan Damakra Migersha Mishamna. The Pasuk says that you take from the flour and from the oil. The Kohen takes the remembrance from the flour and the oil. This teaches me that if it's not full, the flour and the oil, in other words, if some of it got lost, then it's invalid. The fact that the Torah has to tell me, Migir Shah from its flour, Mishamna from its oil. That tells me that Geresh v'Shemen Makvin Vein Davarach Makiv tells me that this is the only thing that we're concerned about being Ma'akiv the sacrifice, unless it's repeated. So even though it says the word Chukah, but I have something else that tells me that I'm only concerned about the flour and the oil being full. I'm not concerned about other things. Unless it's repeated, then I'll be able to say that that's Ma'akiv as well. So, in summary, they have 3 rules there. First rule is Torah is not enough. Why? Because it needs the word chukah. But in that rule, we do have Torah by Nazir, we have it by Toida, we have it by Metzora. Nevertheless, it's Ma'akiv because by Nazir it said Kenyasa, by the Toida we learned from Nazir, and by the Metzora it says Zoistiyah. Okay. Its next rule is that chukah itself is enough, that it's Ma'akiv, even if it says chukah by the Achila. And by the Mincha it says chukah, so that tells me that we have a pasuk that tells me that it's not Ma'akiv because it says Migir Mishamna. That's the only thing that we're concerned about, unless it's repeated. And Torah and chukah together is always going to work. It's that it's Ma'akiv. Gufa was stated before. Amarav Kol Makom Sheichzer Lacha Kasav B'Teres Mincha Ein La'akiv. Whenever the Torah repeats anything by the Mincha, it's telling me that it's Ma'akiv. It's ineffective. The sacrifice is ineffective. It's you have to bring another one. It's invalid. Shmuel Amar.
So what is that literally? What would be an example of that? You know, like whatever. There's a pasuk that talks about a mincha, and then if it says it again.
Yeah, we had it before. 2 days ago. By the pouring of the oil. If you don't pour the oil, it's invalid. How do we know? Because it says by one of the minchas, it says you need to pour the oil. By the minchas soilas, the flour one, and then it says again by the minchas machava, so you need to pour the oil. That tells me if the oil isn't poured, it's invalid. That's why the Mishnah had to be interpreted that when it says if you don't pour the oil, it's valid. We said it's not talking about that a kohen didn't pour it, but someone else poured it. It had to be poured. That's or otherwise because it's repeated, it has to be done.
So anytime it has to,
anytime it mentions it twice, that means that it's ma'akiv.
If you don't